There's this thing people say that I've been hearing since the 2010s, that the left was annoying. And people blame their reactionary shift to support far-right politicians on the idea that the left was simply too annoying. Here's what I feel like I've always kind of noticed about this narrative, but now that a lot of these same guys are ditching Trump, I feel like I finally have words for it. Here's the pattern. A guy does a bad thing that he knows is bad, but he thinks he should be allowed to do anyway. Someone rightfully calls out the bad thing that he knows is bad as indeed bad, and that it shouldn't be done because of the harm that it does. But rather than recognize this as a natural consequence of his own actions as a member of a social species, he shifts the blame to the person calling him out. In this kind of situation where he's being called out, there are two choices. Either you can accept blame, reflect, apologize, and grow, or you can deflect blame, demonize, and attempt to discredit the other person. The latter option protects your ego, but repeated use of the latter option is how you turn yourself into a man-child in the long term. Carrying this aggrievement, this sense of being slighted by being called out for the thing that you said or did that you already knew was wrong before you did it, he forms community and bonds with other guys who've done the same thing, carrying the same grievance. The left was annoying is a cope. It was always a cope. When you're a kid and you're wrong as hell and you're acting a fool and your parent or someone sets you right, you might feel powerless and humiliated. Then when you get into teenage or adult world and your parent or whoever isn't around anymore and you think you can get away with it, you do the same thing again. But this time, someone else who cares about maintaining a functional and healthy community calls you out, and you get that same feeling of powerlessness and humiliation. But rather than accept that this is a natural response to your behavior, rather than take responsibility for the impacts that your words and actions have on other people, you instead protect your ego at cost to your world. You externalize those feelings onto the other person, deflect blame, and act like the person calling you out for behavior that you knew was wrong the whole time is the real problem. That you should be able to do whatever you want, a luxury you would never afford to the same person calling you out. There is a self-infantilization that happens here, an implicit insistence that you are A, ignorant of the impacts of your words and actions, B, cannot be expected to comprehend such things, and C, are incapable of growing beyond harmful habits, despite all of these being untrue. When people say the left was annoying, what I can't help but hear is that they got called out for being homophobic, and rather than grow, transcend, become bigger, they made being reactionary their whole personality out of spite. This was never about the left being annoying. It was always about injured male egos and an insistence that the world must coddle and clean up after them like their children, rather than treat them like adults and expect them to handle the responsibility and accountability that comes along with that. And it certainly doesn't help that there is a whole world of these aggrieved man-children who dedicate their entire social lives to tearing down other men who dare to even think about growing as a person. Men who, crippled by their own inability to process these feelings of humiliation, weaponize humiliation against other men in an attempt to knock them down to their level.